He separates. He's to the 20, to the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Florida State. Warwick got up third down.
Winky looking Winky. Wants to throw the knockout punch to Warwick. Warwick open. Touchdown. He does a touchdown. He did catch it. Touchdown, Florida State. Oh, Peter Warwick, how'd you do that?
Kermit Whitfield to the left side. A hole to the 30. Kermit Whitfield to the 30. To the 20. 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, FSU. Kermit Whitfield. A 100-yard touchdown.
Here's the snap. Winston rolling right. Throws the pass to the other.
It's caught! It's caught! It's caught! Touchdown FSU! Kelvin Benjamin!
We're doing it for everybody. We're doing it big all over the country, all over the world. And I'm proud. I'm proud to say I'm a Florida State Seminole.
This is the Garnet and Old Podcast with your hosts, Ryan Eastman and Vince Ciccarelli. You are listening live to the Garnet and Old Show. If you are watching us on our feeds on YouTube, and you are listening to this on many podcast networks, I'm Ryan. Vince, how's your week going so far?
It's going fine, Ryan. I'm really interested. Oh, no inside info, no context, no problem. So you go away for a week, Ryan, and you forget the groove. So
yeah.
So tell us quickly, Ryan, because I'm really interested to know. This is the first time you went on that particular cruise line. How did it go?
Yeah, I went on, for those of you at home who may be cruise people or might be looking to go on a cruise, I went on my first MSC cruise. So for those of you that aren't aware, MSC is an Italian cruise line who is trying to kind of make its way more and more in the America market, the greater USA market. So I've been on Carnival, Royal, Norwegian, all those many times. This is my first MSC, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised. If you are a fan of different types of ethnicity, or ethnic foods, instead of just like American cheeseburgers and fried chicken, it's your cruise, man. They got all kinds of stuff. They got Greek food, Indian food, lots of good breads and pizzas and things like that. So ship was one of the cleanest, sharpest looking ships I've ever been on, and I've been on a lot of nice ones. If there was a negative, the only negative I would say is lacking some of the America-specific entertainment throughout the day that a lot of cruise lines do, things like comedy shows and things like that. So you go on this cruise on MSC. My recommendation is, if you're looking for relaxation as a primary and having entertainment be a secondary, then definitely check MSC out. It was really good, and doesn't suck to have the drink package either.
No, it definitely doesn't. So good for you, man. I'm glad you had a good time and you came home to with nothing burning at work, which is awesome.
Yeah. That's something.
Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So Ryan was not with us last week, if you watched the show, and next week I will not be on the show because my family and I will be going on a cruise as well next week. So Ryan will be solo.
You never know who might show up, though. You never know. I'm not promising anything, but sometimes people just drop by, kind of like Sesame Street.
Oh yeah, Mr. Hooper.
Yeah, exactly.
I
missed a lot though, Vince. I was gone during a very hot period. I watched the Greg Swaim show and all the talk on realignment. We're going to talk about that near the end of the show today. Just kind of giving a quick
wrap up.
What was an ACC meetings, but something more important happened, and actually was slightly inconvenient while I was gone. But I figured it out. We got an email from Seminole Boosters, you and I, and our season tickets. Both of us had requested LSU tickets.
Correct.
We both requested 6. Vince got informed he is getting 6. I got informed I was only getting 4. So that's fun. But what was interesting is I was on a cruise in the middle of the ocean, and I knew that they had an outdated credit card on file that was no longer valid. And so, not a big deal. I had to send an email or two back and forth to the season ticket office, but on Friday, I believe it was, they charged both of our accounts. For those of you who are curious, the it was about $100 a ticket for the upper level tickets, even for season ticket holders. So just be prepared if you are interested in going to LSU Florida State come the fall and you are not a season ticket holder and did not pre-request those tickets. If upper level direct to consumer was $100, just understand, all of you at home, that the resale value when you get on StubHub or Ticketmaster will at minimum probably be 2 to 3, maybe even 4 times, depending on how
Yeah.
much. So just be prepared for that.
Yeah, so same deal. We got the email. I actually requested 8 because we had gone with a family, an LSU family last year, and we were trying to recreate that magic. And we were offered 6, which we took. I don't know about the $100 tickets because they charged us $160 a piece. So
You
I'm
might
not
have been at
sure.
a different level, Vince. So I'm in an
Yeah.
upper bowl level, and I think, Vince, that you are one booster level ahead of me in your season tickets.
Oh,
So
maybe that's what it is.
I
Okay.
think I got less and you got slightly more, and you probably have a slightly better seat than I do, because I'm still on the after you are a recent graduate, which many of you know, I got my master's degree this past July. It's like 2 to 3 years that you're on like basically a discounted
Yeah.
like recent grads rate. So I'm going to assume that I got the upper bowl tickets and you probably got a little closer upper
Got it.
bowl or middle bowl tickets.
I didn't spend time looking at it to kind of
Yeah.
fight it just because we were planning for my daughter's graduation this past week. My younger daughter graduated from high school. She's done with high school and she'll be taking her talents to Statesboro, Georgia Southern. And so at some point, Ryan, I'm going to start introducing the Georgia Southern Minute into our podcast because I'm kind of anxious to take on another team as a rooting interest for me.
Mm-hmm.
And since they are not typically going to play Florida State, I don't have any problem being a fan of another team. So
They did be a rival, though.
They did once beat our rival, and they beat them handily. They also beat them without throwing a pass, if you recall that game. So
that's hard to do.
That is hard to do. This isn't 1922, but that did happen. So later on this season, as we get closer, once I get my arms wrapped around that roster and those kind of things, we're going to throw a little Georgia Southern Minute into the Garnet and Old Show.
Aside from that, though, Vince, I got the email also, and so did you, letting us know now is the time if you would like to change your home game seats or your parking situation, that now is the time to make that change, or at least request to make that change. I didn't have any changes to make. I had already made my changes last season, so I'm still in the same place, which for those of you who don't know, it's kind of on the home side, but at the very top. I like to be in shade even at early games. I like to be in the shade the entire game. I never want to be in direct sunlight. And then I am in lot 12, which is by the tennis courts. Vince is also in lot 12 last season, but Vince, you were trying to make a move, yeah?
I was trying to make a move. We actually made moves on our seats themselves. We're in section 38. I think you are too, Ryan, but you're at the very top. You like having your back against the wall.
Yeah, I like how actually I'm one from the top level.
So you like having your back against someone's knees.
I like being up there because if any of you have ever been to Joe Campbell, section 38 in the top, unless it is Clemson, Florida State, or Miami, Florida State, or one of these just seminal games, no pun intended, usually some space available up there, just in that corner.
Stretch out a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of me not having to stand up to let people into the aisle to go and 1,000 times back and forth to the bathroom and to the concessions, which happens a lot if you are in the lower bowls. And I'm a big fan of after halftime, put my legs in the bleachers in front of me and having a spot for my drink next to me.
What I'm getting the vibe from you, Ryan, is that you don't really like people, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. You don't like people.
Yeah, I'm there for
So
myself, uh, I love slapping hands, but you know what? By halftime, I'm kind of done with that. I'm ready to recluse back into my bubble, and that's why eventually, Vince, eventually, someday on the show, I'm
I
going to make
know.
the announcement that the Champions Club is happening.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. Believe.
So we moved our seats down a number of rows just because we were where we were sitting. We were partially obstructed to the video board, which I don't like. So we moved down a little bit, but we are still in section 38. We were looking to possibly move our parking spot to lot 7, which is right at Chiefs Field, just in case they happen to start doing Skull Session at Chiefs Field again this coming season. I don't know if they are or they aren't, but it made it very convenient to go and watch that and tailgate right there. But that lot is full. Apparently, it's very popular. So I wasn't able to do that, but it doesn't matter because lot 12 is golden as well. So we are both in lot. Yes, and we are both in lot 12, and which means the tailgating will be in full effect. And we welcome again once we start getting close to the season. We'll keep reminding people to come and see us there. So
we learned a few things about lot 12 last year, Vince. One being that there is kind of this covered breezeway, in which if you want to travel a little lighter for the game when it comes to tents and coverings, that we have even asked a FSU employee or two, and most of them have said you could probably stand there and no one will probably give to at all will care at all if you do it. So
if you set up in there, yeah.
yeah,
The only thing is you got to make sure you leave a little room for people to get by you, but it's also great in case a monsoon happens to come through,
which it did multiple times last year.
which it did.
Yeah.
So moving on a little bit, so we got that locked in. We got the LSU tickets locked in. We got our season tickets locked in. The parking locked in. Baseball won their final series of the miserable season they had, but they went out on a winning note, beating Louisville for the series. And the softball team taken to the brink, by the way, in the regional, kind of almost a repeat of what happened to them last year.
Mm-hmm.
They got to an elimination game and they basically scored one run. They pushed one run across, and the pitcher pitched a perfect game, which you don't see that very often.
No, you also don't see winning streaks like Georgia and Florida State both have.
Yeah. So Super Regional sold out in 1 minute, and that will be against the Bulldogs. So that's coming up. Ryan, were you able to keep abreast of the recruiting happenings while you were
Yes, I will actually say
on the
everyone
open
out
seas?
there, I've been on multiple cruise ships, as I've said. By far the fastest internet at sea that I've had. I paid for the basic plan, not even the streaming plan, Vince. I was able to stream with a little patience, YouTube, Spotify, podcasts, iMessage, FaceTime, all working and working pretty well. So not only did I watch with a 30-minute delay the podcast that you did with Greg Swain, but I also saw Keon Coleman's very I would say disjointed Instagram Live. So normally, for those of you who ever watched an announcement on Instagram Live, sometimes there's hats, sometimes there's just like a very organized thing. Let me reenact.
Don't reenact all of it.
I'm gonna do this. Something's wrong. Can you? I gotta get logged in.
Yeah.
I'm going to Florida State.
And that was pretty much it. I think somebody,
very odd.
Yeah, I think someone asked him a question on the Instagram Live about, are you going to Colorado or something like that? And he said, no, I'm not going there. I'm going to Tallahassee. I'm with the Knowles. So it was but I mean, really, he's not, he's a transfer. It's not his first go around with this. He doesn't need all the hoopla and the hat tossing and all that kind of stuff.
My man just wanted someone to sign him into whatever he needed to get signed into. He needed that password.
He needed some help. He probably also needed a shirt. But
he needed a shirt, but what he also needs is a quarterback that can throw the ball to him, and he's going to get that.
You're going to get that in spades, and he's also going to get a complimentary wide receiver to where they can help each other draw So they're not drawing a double team. Speaking of, we have this on our list to kind of chat about. Now that Keon Coleman is in the fold, this offense was already going to be tough to deal with, man. Just tough to deal with. Barring injury, of course, but tough to deal with. The weapons are everywhere, and they're deep. Did we need another wide receiver?
Nope.
We could have gotten by without it, and we'd have been pretty decent. The embarrassment of riches with Keon Coleman joining this roster is just, if there was any doubt about this offense being able to be an elite one, forget about it. It's again, barring the injury thing.
Sure.
It's you've got Jordan Travis. You've got a running back core that is probably top 5 in the country, right? You've got a wide receiving core that's top 5 in the country. You've got a tight end room that has been completely turned around over the last 2 years. And I don't know where that would rank, but it is significantly good.
Jaheim Bell is predicted as a first-round pick.
As a first-round talent. Yeah. And then you've got the offensive line that is going to be, I could say incrementally better next year. We used to say that in the past in kind of like a bad way. They're only going to get incrementally better. Yeah. But this year, last year, they were already really good. They're going to be better next year.
Yeah.
So, good luck to defenses trying to decide what they're going to try to take away.
I would hate it. It would be equivalent right now to us looking at like an offense like let's say LSU that year. They won the national title a few years ago.
Yep.
It would be like us in the offseason, leading into that season, them signing just another 6'5" wide receiver. And we'd be like, well, that's just not right. So other teams, especially LSU first game of the year, they're not going to be able to just shut down Johnny Wilson. And by the way, they wouldn't have just been able to shut down Johnny Wilson. They would have had to shut down our running game and our tight ends. But now you have an absolute, and if anyone's watched tape on Keon Coleman, by the way, my man breaks some tackles. He makes catches in traffic. He makes end zone fade catches that are unbelievable. He is a serious talent, which is why so many schools wanted him. So now there is no doubt in my mind, even before Keon Coleman, that we'd be a top 10 offense. I really think it's a potential where either one or two top offense in the country.
Yeah, and because Keon Coleman is really a legit wide receiver 1. Mm-hmm. And we already have a wide receiver 1. Yeah. So we got wide receiver 1s.
Yeah.
We really do. Really good, both of them.
Yeah.
So that was exciting. I don't know that I was expecting that. I know we had a good chance of it, and there was some rumors going around that he was going to go to Ole Miss or whatever. But in the end, the Portal King pulls it out again. We don't win them all, but we win a lot. We win a lot of those.
For those of you who didn't watch it, I don't know if you did or not, Vince, I recommend everyone go to YouTube and search Andy Staples' interview with Mike Norvell. Jason Staples, sorry. He talked to him about being it was a good 20-minute interview just this past week. And they talked about him being the Portal King, and Mike had a fat ring on and kept clinking on the table. I wanted to be like, take the ring off. But he also talked about how being they talked about what's his name, Kenny Dillingham and Dan Lanning, and his coaching tree is starting to get more and more impressive. And then you have he mentioned Alex Atkins and Tony Tokars, and now for those of you that didn't know, we signed a new analyst.
We did.
It's not an insult. His name is Midget. I'm not making an insult. That's just his name, and he has been a basically a defensive backs secondary coach in the NFL for many, many years, and he has joined FSU staff to kind of help just be an analyst. So we're starting to turn into like a miniature Alabama here, signing all these NFL guys.
Yeah, we brought this up a number of times, and our rivals, about a year and a half ago, would mention the fact that, Florida State doesn't have any money. They're a poverty school, all these other things that, and there was some worry amongst our fan base about whether we were going to be able to keep up with that. We are not going to be, we're not going to be able to be, just throwing money around, right? But we have the coffers to do things when it makes sense, and that makes me feel good. Bringing on another analyst, I'm to the point now where if Mike Norvell thinks someone is going to help the program,
Sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's make it happen.
And speaking of people looking to help the program, so right now we're, depending on what list you look at, we're anywhere from ranked 5 to 8 in the team rankings for 2024 recruiting rankings. But every day, Vince, almost every day, there is someone whittling down their list to their top 3 or top 2 and making comments about Florida State might be my number 1 school, and here's why. And I think someone made a comment today. I forget which one it was that said, in quotes, like, all the schools, who reached out, they all show you love, but Florida State has been the only school to continue to give me love, and I can tell they really mean it. So we have one 4-star offensive tackle, one 5-star, a couple edge rushers that are potentials for us. There's so many players out there right now that we would not have been able to get on campus 2 years ago because of how rough the program was in shape. But now I think they see the writing on the wall that they're ready to be part of a winning program, but potentially a playoff program this year, and come in and continue it next year and the year after that and the year after that. So I think it's a healthy 50-50 mix with what Norvell's doing as the portal king, but also the recruiting king. So any thoughts about us being in the conversation now with these primetime recruits?
I mean, the only thoughts that I have about it is I'm just ecstatic, right?
Yeah,
because it's
Jimbo.
Yeah, we haven't, and it's not just a recruit giving us lip service, to kind of because we brought him on a visit or whatever, he would decides to say the name. I mean, these are guys that legitimately we have juice to pull them in. We won't get them all, but we'll get our fair share of them. Some of them are leaning heavily toward us. And so, and this is like crunch time. It's not like the old days where there was only one signing day and it was in February, and you could kind of slow play things until the season was over and then you blitz it, right? You've got to get this work done now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of kids are making their minds up before their senior seasons start. And then once the senior seasons start, it's kind of hold on and maintain. So I mean, we are recruiting right now, and I don't want to know that it's elite yet, but it's getting close. It's getting close to that. We are recruiting at a high level. We're at a high level. Yeah,
Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State. I feel like those, and maybe even Clemson at certain points, different points of different years. Those are like the dream team tiers, like where you're an embarrassment of how many people want to come play for you.
Yeah,
we're just outside peeking. We're peeking through the blinds right now, sitting there with Notre Dame and Florida and a few other schools, Oklahoma, that are always really, really good. It's odd though. Miami's like nowhere on the list. It's odd. I don't know what's going on down there with all that money.
Well, yeah, and talking about that, he's a recruit. He's great. He's a great recruiter.
Yeah.
He's a great recruiter. So I don't know what's going on.
And they have money, so much money.
And they have a lot of money. And so if he's a great recruiter and they have a lot of money and people still aren't coming, at least as of now, I'm not saying they won't. At least as of now, I think our Hurricane brethren might be feeling a little bit of pressure right now and wondering if they have the right guy going there. I'm not, I don't know.
Yeah. It would be awful if not. I would like to see him re-sign to an extension, but
yeah. And same thing with Hogtown, right?
Yeah.
Also struggling a bit. And I've got a number of friends that are Gators as well. And if we're talking just regular, kind of trolling a rival and you don't really know them, you don't really know the person, I'm okay with, offering up that they have no hope. But when it's your friend, you got to be a little more, realistic with them. And to be realistic about that, they're living through what we were living through.
Yeah.
A few years ago. And so, the Gator coach, what's his name?
From now you're killing this. See, I was just thinking.
This is terrible.
It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter what his name
Napier.
is.
Napier.
Yeah, Billy Napier. There you go.
Billy Napier and Cristobal. I mean, they may end up being great, but right now, just like we the proof they have to prove that they know what they're doing.
Yeah,
before the recruits will come.
It feels like Willie Taggart going on, especially in my opinion. I actually think Miami has a better chance coaching wise to do well in the long run. Billy Napier definitely feels out of place, and I said it on this show when he got hired that I felt like he was an odd choice for the University of Florida and the type of boosters that they fund, especially the coach that they just got rid of to bring in a Billy Napier. Just you almost think that a Jim Tressel type better fits in at UF from their high end boosters and everything instead of, oh boy Billy bringing in his level his power. What is it? Group of five? No, it's not even group of five. It was FCS offense.
Well, I mean, he's well thought of.
Sure.
I mean, he's well thought of. As a matter of fact, he was a coach for Florida State for all of 4 days, I think, right?
Yeah.
Where Jimbo hired him and then Alabama offered him like within a day or two after that. And he never even really set foot on campus, I don't think. But he's well thought of. And so the question is whether he's got it in him to lead a program.
Sure.
That like UF, that if you get the right person in there, they're going to do very well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
To finish off tonight before we get into a little bit of a change, just to wrap up, kind of put a bow on the ACC meeting things. It was just a very fun roller coaster week where, guys, it wasn't just us or Greg Swaim. It was Mark Schlabach and what's his name, McMurphy and
Dellinger.
Listen, everyone who knows college football in any way was reporting that the group of the seven, the Fantastic Seven or whatever it was called, and all that stuff. I fully believe that is still the case. Like this, they didn't get to the meetings and Jim Phillips gave everyone an ice cream sandwich and everyone was like, you know what, I feel better. It wasn't a Snickers commercial where they were feeling hangry and now it's all good. What happened at that meeting is they knew that they were going to that meeting. They knew for now, right now, present day, they wanted to make more money today. So they would leak that to the press. The press would report that there's collusion to get out of the ACC, which everyone already knew, but it had never been said out loud. That would put pressure on Jim Phillips to then negotiate a better revenue deal for the schools that were having the issue. That solves the problem, or at least helps the problem for this season and maybe even next season, and gets them more money right now. And they'll shake hands and they'll smile and they'll take a photo with Jim Phillips and they'll sing Kumbaya together outside of the meeting rooms. All while the second they get home, business as usual, they're still doing everything they can to get out of the ACC and find out what they need to do to make that happen. The 7 and possibly 8 are still guys having these conference calls. It's a lot of wheeling and dealing behind the scenes. So don't for a second think that Jim Phillips and our own athletic director, saying very copacetic things that everything's great and we're all together. That's now, right now. It doesn't change what the inevitable future is. So I actually give Florida State, Clemson, and the other 7 schools credit for, listen, it was intentional to leak to the press. They wanted more money yesterday. So if they know at minimum, if maybe in their meetings they have come to the conclusion that at minimum they're here for another 2 to 3 years in the ACC, you might as well ask. It's like you're intending to apply for another job and you don't like your current job and you're going to still keep applying, but in the meantime you ask for a raise. Okay, it's that simple. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I do agree. And if you look at the timeline of this, when they met earlier this year, and there were rumblings and discussions about this money thing's not working for us, and so what about they start? What does everybody think about unequal revenue sharing? And I wasn't there, Ryan. You weren't there. But I have a feeling that the majority, not the majority, but a large amount of the schools in the country are like, heck no.
Yeah.
We are not doing anything like that. Michael Alford comes home. We have the board meeting, right? And he's outwardly saying these things. This is all pressure points, right?
Yeah.
So we weren't satisfied, and the other schools that believe that trying to compete at a national level, at a high level, is important to us, the schools that are like that believe that, they were not happy with what they heard earlier this year. So fast forward to this past week, and it's been no secret that schools have been looking at the grant of rights. That is not a secret.
Yeah.
But the way that thing was worded about schools getting together to look at the grant of rights, right? And that coming out right before the meetings. Could you imagine, Ryan, if there's one thing that I would have enjoyed seeing is that initial get together, once those things were out in the open, and the teams that were not, the schools that were not willing to even discuss unequal revenue sharing.
Yeah.
Getting that kind of like,
shock.
What? And you know what? We're going to put some pressure here because it's already not working for us. Mm-hmm. And so, that initial shock of that, I'm sure there was some anger and there's some angry words being thrown around. I'm okay with that. People have to know.
Disagreement?
Well, I think that was false, but it was very funny. It was very funny.
It's not. You can imagine something similar like that in a lower scale happening. I would have paid to have seen Jim Phillips swiping down to reload his email about an hour away from the event and being like, oh my God.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're in this meeting and they're in this meeting way too long, longer than they should have been. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, the schools like Florida State are like, we're not going to take no for an answer. We understand that we are locked in, at least for now. We understand that. But, anything short of us trying to do what's right here. And imagine if, again, those other schools are like, there's no way we're going to acquiesce at all. Imagine that. What then keeps Florida State and Clemson and whoever else coming out of that meeting going, as soon as we have an opportunity, we are going?
Yeah. So in this hypothetical situation, I promise you there was words that they said, if guys, after we get out of this meeting, if we don't have some kind of understanding that you guys are willing to negotiate on this, we got reporters standing outside and we're going to talk. That's the inference given by the leak happening before the meeting, is that we're ready to give some quotes out there. So you guys better do something. And they probably didn't have a specific number and agreement when they left that room, but they had a Jim Phillips saying, all right, we need to seriously discuss this, maybe even took an informal vote on, let's actually bring this up formally. And that's why when they left the meeting, none of them talked to anyone, very intentionally. And I think what they heard was some people coming around to, okay, we get it. They're not going to split the TV money. I get that. But there's additional revenue about your success, your playoff success or your postseason success that should go to the teams that are getting there. Yeah. Right. And so if that ends up equating to, $5, $7, $10 million more dollars a year,
which is not 40 million more a year,
Yeah.
right? But if we can get that amount of money for the next 2-3 years, it makes it easier, right? It's more palatable. And 3 years down the road, 2 years, 3 years down the road, we are getting closer to the possibilities of skedaddling and not having to break the bank, so to speak. So I think it's the right decision, Ryan. I think it's the right decision for these other schools to basically say, yeah, you should get more money for the success you have. I mean, that's the way it should work. But I think they also all know as well that it's not going short of some miracle that the ACC as we know it today is going to exist 5 years from now.
Yeah, no, they know that, and the 7, 8, or even potentially 9 schools, if you include Notre Dame, the second they made that statement and leaked it to the press, what that signals to the Big Ten and the SEC is we're open for business. Like, and for everyone who says like they want to not, they can't say anything and they to tamper and all that kind of stuff. That's true. Don't act like there's not plenty of encrypted chat guys is real these days. Bars exist still. Private chateaus still exist where all these dudes who are very wealthy, they can get the message to another school and say, hey, here's what we're thinking, and bounce ideas back and forth. There's no way that a modern college football, Texas and Oklahoma can bounce out of nowhere. Because you remember when that happened, when that news came out that Texas and Oklahoma were leaving, that was kept very quiet.
Yes, it was.
I mean, in the world of social media, the fact that didn't get out told me that it was the brass of the conference of the SEC and only 1 or 2 people at each school, and no one else was kept looped in fully into those conversations other than, yeah, we're talking, but nothing definitive. That's how it will be when Florida State and Clemson inevitably get the nod and announce they're going wherever they're going. It's going to be I truly believe, out of nowhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's not going to be this kind of slow leak out of this. It's going to be, you're going to wake up one morning and it's going to be headline news. Yeah. And then you'll have to go back and recreate the steps that happened leading up to that, right? Because you're not going to know about that. Yeah. And I don't, I wasn't of the opinion, and I know some people are, I was not of the opinion that what happened this past week was going to be like the spark and all of a sudden we were going to know, right? But it is another clue that what we've been saying and what others have been saying is that it's not sustainable the way it is. And if it's not sustainable the way it is, you have to find an alternative. And so, we're going through those steps right now, but I don't think it's going to be slowly let out. It's going to be, you're going to wake up one morning and there it is.
As a little side note for those of you, you start slowly making your plans for the college football season. And for me, that means eventually reactivating my cable subscription that I cancel for 3/4 of the year, which in the days of streaming, it's so easy to do.
That's how you stick it to the man, Ryan.
Yeah. I don't keep it at the day after the Super Bowl. I usually keep it through Super Bowl. I axe it and it saves, listen, $100 a month or whatever it is.
Sure.
So YouTube TV, which is my preferred provider for college football.
And you're just sponsoring people left and right here.
If you're also an NFL fan, YouTube TV, for those that you did not know, is going to be the exclusive Sunday ticket holder for NFL Sunday Ticket. So it's going to be a, by necessity, default choice for me going forward. I'm not going to even consider anything else because I want all the Jaguar games, being that they're ready to go this year. But
go to London.
YouTube TV announced for the college football and NFL season the inclusion of 4-game multi-view, where you'll be able to set 4 different channels into 4 quadrants of your TV. Meaning, if Florida State's not playing, which that's always full screen for me, but if they're not playing, it is nice on a noon on a Saturday to have the Big Ten, the SEC, the ACC network, and some other random game in 4 quarters of the screen. I'm usually not sitting there focused on only those games. It's like having it on the background and checking scores. And I'm telling
Mm-hmm.
you, I've been waiting for this kind of feature. They've had it for a while on ESPN's app,
Yep, they
but
have.
those were only very certain games that in the market, or certain ESPN3 games. But to have it on all the college football games in 4K, and it's going to be great.
I'll have to post a picture of what I used to do prior to this great technology we have. Back in the old days, I would have my rear projection TV, and I had a couple of smaller CRT TVs that I would put on tables next to it so I could watch multiple games at the same time. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ESPN app has had that for a number of years, and I use it religiously every year.
Yeah.
And it's great, man, because you can quickly flip from game to game as it's kind of like your own DIY. What did they call the college football wraparound thing? They would just start showing you the scoring plays like as they were happening.
It's like Red Zone, basically.
Red Zone, yeah. But it's kind of DIY. Like you get to choose. You get to choose it. It's awesome.
Yeah, and so I think YouTube, that was probably part of their deal with the NFL, is that we're investing in technology for sports and making it. They already have, by the way. I don't know if you had YouTube TV last year and the last couple of years, Vince, but they already had where in the middle of a football game you could pull up stats and slow motion replays on when plays happen and things like that. So, just my recommendation, if you want that 4-view experience for all the games and Sunday Ticket and all that stuff, I'm excited to use that on my Apple TV 4K. I'm also hip at the Apple TV.
Yeah, me too. That's what I have too. It makes it super easy. Ryan, before we wrap, because we're kind of squirreling here, which is fine, man. I haven't seen you in a while, so I'm glad you're back. I'm glad you're healthy and you didn't catch any bad diseases or anything like that.
Not yet.
But let me throw this up because I don't know if anybody caught this when we started the show off. So let's throw this up on the screen real quick.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Ryan?
Every Thursday, and there's some reasons behind the scenes for it, but I can tell you what it means for everyone. Having the show every Thursday instead of every Tuesday means as we approach college football season coming up, generally how it goes in the news cycle of the week is most of the practices happen Monday through Thursday afternoon. They generally get Friday as like a walkthrough day for whatever game it is, and then Saturday happens. So, although there are other similar reasons, some of the benefits of this mean that instead of having a Garnet and Old Show on a Tuesday and then having like maybe a pregame prediction on like a Thursday or Friday, now we'll have all the practice information and be able to give our prediction in one show on Thursdays. And we have some more announcements coming up later this year about away games, or at least some away games, certain games that might have things going on if it's an away game on Saturdays. But we really wanted to wrap up the practices and be able to predict the show with all the news and information. Having on a Tuesday, we kind of limit ourselves on what we can provide up-to-date information for. So from now on, starting next week, which I'll be hosting alone next week, Vincent gone, every Thursday, same time though, 7:00.
Yeah, it really does give us an opportunity to have a more fact-based show leading into a game, right? We'll know more about what's going on with the team. But that doesn't change the fact that we'll have a post game, each week, and if anything critical happens, we can always do a kind of an ad hoc thing if we needed to. But the weekly show moving to Thursdays at 7, I'm excited about that.
Just don't always expect 1080p or 4K post game. Sometimes if me and Vince went to a game, it might be in the car. We might be recording with a MagSafe video or audio stream, like many other podcasts do. But we want to be able to, at minimum, even if we're not able to do it with me and Vince standing next to each other or sitting at home, we still want to be able to provide an immediate post game. Because last year we were kind of doing it, waiting until the normal schedule of our show, and it would be 2 to 3 days after, and we're kind of already past the reaction, and we want that really that 15 minutes after the game, what do we feel in live reaction.
Yep. Looking forward to that. And we'll have some technical things to work out before then, but we will. This has been a good show, Ryan. I'm glad you're back.
Yeah, enjoy Alaska, Vince, and then hopefully my production skills aren't too rough while you're gone. I'm sure you just got to get me into the producer's chair for once. Look at that.
Yeah, we'll get you in here. It's easy to run. And don't forget, everybody, it's Thursday, next Thursday.
Mhm.
So, and Thursday going forward. And that's a wrap, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So everyone, thanks for watching tonight. We will see you guys next Thursday, or I will. And Vince, hopefully you will watch it, maybe from your phone on the boat later on, or when you get home. But other than that, Garnet and Old, no inside info, no contacts, no problem.
Go Knowles.
Go Knowles.